Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Problem Solved, the IISE podcast. I'm James Swisher, Director of Continuing Education for IISE, and we've got a great episode ahead as we quickly approach ergonomics season. Our guest in this episode, Stephen Jenkins, is the Director of Safety and Health for Cintas Corp, and he's set to be the keynote speaker for the upcoming Applied Ergonomics Conference 2023, taking place March 27th through the 30th at the Hyatt Regency New Orleans. For our listeners, there's still time to take advantage of huge savings on conference registration through March 19th. Learn more and register today at iise.org/AEC/register. Also, don't forget to check out our interview with the other AEC keynote speaker, LaShawn Boulware, Human Factors Design Engineer for the Orion program at Lockheed Martin Space. She talks to IISE's Keith Albertson about her career motivations and the road to working on space technology. In the meantime, let's get to know Stephen Jenkins from Cintas. Welcome, Stephen Jenkins, to the podcast. We're really excited to have you with us today. Thanks so much for taking time.
You are welcome. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, I know that you've had a distinguished and pretty exciting career in safety and health. But tell us how you got started. How did your career begin as an ergonomist?
Well, James, I wish I could tell you there was some great master plan to get me to this point, but there wasn't. I am lucky. And I didn't start down this path when I came out of school. I had a background in engineering and a background in sports, both playing and coaching. And I got into the work world and said, wouldn't it be nice if we could figure out how to marry the idea of human performance in the workplace, not knowing that, of course, like many other things, it had already been solved hundreds of years before I thought of it. But I didn't know what the term was. I'd never heard the term ergonomics. Was introduced to it by a friend who had nothing to do with ergonomics, but just happened to know someone who worked in that field. So I stumbled into this multidisciplinary degree, went back to university and said, hey, I want to meld these things together. And I came out with what was not an ergonomics degree, but was all of the backgrounds that you needed to be successful in ergonomics. And it was not an ergonomics degree because there was no such thing at the university I went to at that point. And then coming out of that, I got lucky again. I sent off some letters to people and got an opportunity to join the province of New Brunswick, Canada. I am Canadian and graduated from Dalhousie University. And the province of New Brunswick was kind enough to say, hey, we're interested in getting engaged in ergonomics, and why don't you come help us? And that's where it all began, a series of misadventures, one might call it. So, just darn lucky that people, professors and politicians, for lack of a better word, were willing to take a chance on some 20-something that didn't know very much, quite frankly.
That's a wonderful story. And today you're Director of Health and Safety for a large corporation, Cintas Corporation. What did your journey look like between starting with the province of New Brunswick and getting to Cintas?
Yeah, great question. Again, unplanned and a series of great opportunities. Went to New Brunswick and was given this chance to set up ergonomics for businesses in need, and met a lot of wonderful business people, and was bold or audacious enough just to reach out to a lot of people, whether they be academics or whether they be in business or whether they were consultants or government people, and just say, hey, what are you doing? And I was also lucky enough to assemble a phenomenal team of individuals that were both accelerated our experience and allowed us to get deeper into this world. But I just met some phenomenal people and worked with some phenomenal people and learned just so much that and was able to experiment so much because we were cutting down the trees, we were clearing the forest. And we didn't have anybody to follow in that respect. And so, fail fast, fail cheap, take risks, all of that was good at the time. And boy, what a wonderful playground for a 20-something to get in that didn't know any better.
Right.
And really just wanted to figure out, how can we improve human performance? How can we improve human factors, ergonomics? From that, I had the opportunity and met David Alexander at Auburn Engineers, and he took a risk on hiring me. And I spent another decade working with some of the best companies in the world in safety and health and ergonomics. And just I could give you a list of 50 people that have influenced me that are just great thinkers. Many of them are involved in the Applied Ergonomics Conference, and that allowed me to develop and grow and learn. And actually allowed me to get involved in the initial organizing committees in the initial years of the Applied Ergonomics Conference.
Yeah.
And, sit there and learn from many of those folks once again. And 10 years, a little over 10 years ago, I joined Cintas. Again, they were looking for an ergonomist, wanted to start and accelerate their ergonomics program. And it's been a fantastic trip so far. I'm just so thankful that I took the opportunity to do it. And so when I look at my career and my stops along the way, I've just been blessed by a lot of experiences and a lot of people who have been gracious and kind to teach me. And as Rick Fulweiler, the former head of P&G Safety and Health Worldwide, always says, I'm going to lay down some pearls on the floor, and if you want to pick them up, and that's what people have been kind enough to do, put these pearls down. And I've been only smart enough to say, hey, that's a pearl. Let me pick that up.
That's awesome. It's wonderful when you're blessed in a career to have leaders that give you that opportunity to fail fast and give you an opportunity to grow your network and build on not only your successes, but maybe a few failures mixed in there.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Wow, that's really amazing. And you mentioned the Applied Ergonomics Conference. Of course, you're going to be keynoting this year's Applied Ergonomics Conference. So we're excited about that. Is that part of your career progression as well, is building that network, finding folks who have like interest in being able to go to events like AEC and learn from others and talk to others?
Yes, absolutely. Everything that I have is come to me through others. And, to borrow a phrase from Stephen Covey, sharpening the saw is critical to anything. And reflecting, gaining insights is critically important. And, you get to the point where you have had a lot of experiences. And so melding those together and growing and becoming a different person, perhaps a more effective person, again, to steal a line from Stephen Covey.
Right.
But the Applied Ergonomics conference, the Applied Ergonomics Conference is very special to me for so many reasons. But I have gained so many relationships, and I have learned so much. So many mentors there, so many teachers there, and we're getting a whole new generation of them coming on board. Yeah. And I just meet so many impressive young people that I say, wow, I wish I was nearly as talented as you are at that point in my life. And so it's inspirational as well to get all of this coming at you at once. And so you leave the conference that you're just motivated. You're just excited and thankful, humbled as well, but thankful that this is the career you chose, because a lot of really great, really good people engaged in this conference.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I have that experience at every conference, but particularly at AEC, where you get to meet folks who've been at it for a long time, and they bring such wisdom and knowledge and experience. But then you also meet these young people who if I was 50% as smart as they are at their age, I would be way better off in my career. They're just amazingly talented. And it's a wonderful experience both to meet new practitioners with great new innovative ideas and experienced practitioners with that wisdom to share. So it's a real treasure opportunity, on both sides of the aisle.
It is, and I'm very humbled to be able to come in and speak to them. I have hopefully something to share. I know I have something to share because I mentioned I've learned from so many people that I think there's a few pearls I'll be able to throw out there that people will find interesting. They're not my pearls; they're borrowed pearls that I hope to give back to other people so they can carry on and use them. And as you said, with the talent and the freshness and the youth and all the tools at their disposal, that I'm really excited where they're going to head with this.
Absolutely. Well, and hopefully we'll be smart enough to pick a few of those pearls up off the floor along the way.
It's an easy job when all I have to do is put them down there. Yeah.
Can you give us a few sneak peeks of some things that or some topics that you might be highlighting during your keynote?
Believe it or not, a month out, I'm still formulating, what are the best stories that are the most meaningful at this time. Sure. And obviously I'm looking through it at my lens, and I'm going to talk to some other people and get their lens and their perspective. But as I mentioned, I've been really lucky to spend a lot of time with some wise people. And that list continues every day, and it continues with my team at Cintas today, and with people I interact with. I think we have this opportunity to seize a leadership role in human performance and wellness that's been out there for a while. And how are we going to grasp that? What are the things we're thinking about? We are at this very interesting crossroads, and people, even more so today, are so critical to companies' successes, to university successes, to government agency successes, and how we're going to rise to that challenge, and the things we might need to consider. To be a good ergonomist, you have to be really good at a lot of things, and I'll just give you one quick example.
Yeah.
As an ergonomist, we're almost always put in the debit column of the accounting ledger. We're a cost center. And to me, that's not the right way to think about it. But we've allowed this to happen. I say allowed. I don't think we've taken the bull by the horn, so to speak, to say, okay, how will we change this conversation?
Yes.
And I think that conversation is out there to be had with all of the initiatives around wellness, with all of the initiatives around labor shortages. It's the time is ripe, and I think it's a different challenge than when I faced when I started my career even 20 years ago. Yeah. But I think we have the tools and the wherewithal, if we want to do it, to engage in that conversation and change it. And so I think there's a real conversation about leadership and where we go with the whole world of human performance, human capital, and broadening our thinking around ergonomics. And we need every piece of the puzzle. We need from the pure research to the applied research to the government agency to the practitioners. But this conference is truly about practitioners, and everyone there, whether they know it or not, is a leader. I mean, they're there because they're a leader in their company in ergonomics. So I'd like to just dive into that. And as I said, just talk about some of the things that some of the lessons I've learned over the last while, and has allowed us to be successful at Cintas and in previous roles.
That's wonderful. Well, I'm excited to hear your keynote and excited to hear how you're addressing some of those challenges. And that kind of is a good maybe segue into challenges in general. I know a lot of our listeners are ergonomists, but not everybody listening. We've got a fair amount of folks who practices IEs and maybe only do some ergonomics work. So I'm wondering if you could maybe shed some light on what are the big challenges as an ergonomist today, not just at Cintas, but in general. What headwinds are you seeing? What challenges are out there in front of you?
Wow, that's a big question. You can go in many directions with this. The technology world is just an unknown force out there.
Yeah.
I'm sure many of the listeners have been paying attention to, OpenAI and ChatGPT, or what I think that's the name of it. The ability to basically create information through AI.
Yes.
That just opens so many things. We've got so many technologies that allow us to collect data and understand the problems in jobs now, and just lots of advancements and things, that just I can't even think of. But what is interesting is many of them just allow us to understand a problem. They don't necessarily rectify the situation. And so regardless of the situation we're confronted with, it still comes back to an interaction between a person and another person, or maybe a few people and a few other people, a person and a group, whatever the relationship is. And, I'm always struck by the fact that we go through life, and up to a certain point, we're really rewarded for our IQ. How do you do in that test? How well did you do at university? And, how do you understand these problems when you enter the workforce? And then at some point, I don't know when, it's different for all of us, our emotional intelligence becomes much more important.
Yes.
And that aspect is not as well discussed. And so we have all this information flowing in, but we've still got to interact with a person to do it. And it almost puts a heavier emphasis on our ability to interrelate and to understand and to listen. When you throw in the whole diverse world that we live in now, and understand diversity of, James, I've just met you, what is your background? If I really want to work with you, where are you coming from? And,
right.
I grew up in a little place called Prince Edward Island, Canada. That's about as big as this computer screen we're looking at. 130,000 people. It was diverse in some ways, but not overly diverse. And as a young man, I was thrown into the world of diversity, and I've had to use that every day. So I think the challenge still becomes the relationship. Some of us are lucky enough, or maybe unlucky enough, I don't know, but to live in a world where we don't have to interact. But even video games now, they're all about interaction.
Right.
I hear my sons yelling at their friends over their gaming consoles, right? Over their headsets, and it's human interaction now. So right. It's remarkable how it still comes back to that.
It's a great point. Even if we see VR or different work environments than we have today, there still are going to be people interacting with people in those environments, aren't there?
Yes. Yeah. Well said. Well said.
I'm also reminded, I'm going to give a shout out to my former colleague, Frank Grubbs, I worked with for many years. Frank taught me that it's more important to know where to find the answer than to know the answer yourself.
Yeah, that is. And with the diversity, and as an ergonomist, what you hear and what you execute with what you hear is way more important than what I say. And, there's that aspect as well, is where you find that problem, where you find that answer may change depending on the situation.
Absolutely.
And the person you're interacting with.
Well, speaking of answers to problems, Cintas has a pretty good track record going with the Ergo Cup. So I think eight wins. Is that right?
In 5 years, maybe.
Yeah. So for listeners who aren't familiar with the Ergo Cup, that is one of the most prestigious awards in the ergonomics community. Goes to teams who solve a complex ergonomics problem. And Cintas has been dominating the last few years. So can you tell us a little bit about how you built the buy-in with employees to build these solutions and sort of how they tackle problems at Cintas?
Yes, and I wish I could take some credit for this, but I'm not sure I can, except very, very, very thinly. But to answer this question, I need to start with Cintas, and I often tell when I get to talk to engineering students, and they give me a few opportunities to do that at different universities, I often start with this story that my last consulting gig, I'd finally gotten NASA clearance. I'd been able to work on some projects, but being Canadian, it was hard to get. And right. So I was getting to work with NASA. And when you tell an engineer that, or a young engineer, and you talk about some of the projects you're doing, it's, oh, that's really cool. And I say, but I left that to go do laundry. And let me tell you why. Now, you can think I'm crazy, and at the end of it, you may still think I'm crazy. But let me try to explain why I made that decision. When I first got into conversations with Cintas, I knew very little about them. We're a business to business company, so we're not out there, but we're a little like I call the baby stroller phenomena. When you have a kid and get a baby stroller, you realize, oh my goodness, there's a lot of baby strollers out there. Right. And anybody who's listening, who's gone through that, they realize exactly what I'm talking about. So when I saw Cintas and started to talk to them, I saw these trucks, these white trucks all over the place. And okay, that's what they do. And okay, they do laundry. We do first aid services. We do fire protection services. We do other things like that. But what's the company really about? And the company and the founder of the company, Dick Farmer, the modern company, he wrote a book called The Spirit is the Difference, which basically describes the culture. And very early in the book, he says, hey, if you want to know how the job is done, go talk to the person who does it. Yeah. And that permeates our culture. We are focused on executing to service our customers, of which we have 1 million customers, by the way. Wow. And allowing our partners to have input and express their needs and interacting with them at the highest level. When I get to travel with our executives, our highest level executives, they spend a majority of their time on their location visits talking to frontline customers, talking to frontline partners. We call our employees partners, excuse me. Sure. So employee partners. So this engagement model that is at Cintas really struck me. And so when I looked at the company, I said, I've been talking a lot for a long time about the power of people, human performance, allowing these people to generate ideas and solve problems. This will give me an opportunity to put my theory into practice. And so I joined Cintas, and they indeed gave me that ability to do that. And our corporate ergonomist today, Devonna Pilsick, continues to do that and marvelously and far better than I could even conceive doing it. And it has allowed us to put not just the problem identification, because a lot of companies say we're going to engage and include our partners, but what it really is the modern day suggestion box, James. Let me identify the problem. We have said, no, we're not only going to do that, we are going to allow you to solve the problems. Wow. And put in very simple tools to be able to do that. But the reality is we have 44,000 employees, roughly. It changes from day to day, so I don't ever know the exact count. And their ability, even 10% of them solving problems, are going to so exceed what I could do anytime. And so they're solving hundreds of problems on a regular basis. What could I solve? Right. And maybe it's a little bit better. Maybe it isn't, because I don't understand the work as well as they do. Sure. It certainly takes a lot longer. And maybe they're incremental changes. Maybe they don't eliminate the risk, but those incremental changes add up. Absolutely. And so, the awards are an output. We don't, there's nothing, there's nobody in there going after the award. Awards are nice. Our partners love getting awards, and we're excited for them. But I think at the end of the day, our culture is you belong to something bigger than you. You are participating in something. We have hundreds of little locations. We have 17,000 vehicles. And when you make a fix, when you put something in place, you are impacting all of these other people. Right. What a wonderful feeling. Yeah. you're a frontline partner. You're going to work and you're working on this team, and you're going to impact hundreds or thousands or tens of thousands of employees with a fix like this. It's just the power that they, just the happiness, the fulfillment that they feel is you can't bottle it, you can't package it, you can't. And it's got absolutely nothing to do with me. It's their choice to get involved, and it's their choice to put their effort into it. And it's the outcomes that you see.
Wow. That's amazing. And what sounds like the awards are a byproduct of the culture, not the other way around.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow. Well, it sounds like you made a smart choice going to do laundry instead of launching spaceships.
It fits me, James. You're absolutely right. It fits my style, and it's not going to fit everybody's style, but it was one of the best decisions I made in my life, and one of the few planned decisions. Still lucky I found out about it, but at least I stopped and said, "Hey, I want to."
That's right.
So I will take a tiny little bit of credit for making that.
Absolutely. Well, I think you're awfully humble. I suspect that your talent and your decisions have a big part in your success over time. But I agree with you, at least from my perspective. I know so much of my life has just been good fortune. To have the good fortune to work with smart people and learn from other people and be in the right place at the right time. I think it's hard to underestimate the power of good fortune in your life.
Yes, when I'm the smartest person in the world, I get worried, James. So
you and me both.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. There's just so many talented people out there that
there really are.
And going back to the Applied Ergonomics Conference, that's what makes it so exciting. There are just a lot of talented people assembled in that room.
That's funny that you say that. It's exactly what I was going to ask you is, I know we're all really excited to learn from you at the conference. What are you hoping to learn from others at the conference?
I've always been fortunate enough, and I think my family instilled this in me, that ask questions and listen. And obviously, you're very good at this, or you would not be sitting in the chair hosting podcasts at this. And finding out what's important to people on this day, and just asking questions. You can learn something from any conversation and any situation. I've been really working for the last few years on getting rid of my biases. I didn't know how many I had. And I think it's just to listen and to learn and to take value in all these and truly they're pearls. They're pearls that people are lying down and something you can learn from and something you can use and maybe not today.
Yeah.
But at some point, my daughter, it used to drive me crazy. Anything before the year 2000, she always referred to as the 1900s. And for someone of my age, the 1900s is 123 years ago, not 23 years ago.
Right.
But I often reflect on that because it's perspective.
Sure.
And at first I was insulted by it. I'm not 123 years old. But to her, I'm a product of the 1900s.
Yeah.
And to listen to the news and the thinking of people who are products of the 21st century is really critical part of it as well. And I don't get enough opportunities, unfortunately, to do that as much. I do get to talk to a lot of university students, and I do try to spend a lot of time with our new partners and our younger partners and our employees. And it's always a gift. But I think that's always a focus of mine as well, because I have a lot of blind spots there.
I think that's really insightful. And, I think you're right. I think as we all start to examine ourselves more, the more we realize we have biases and blind spots. And so the importance of listening to others and actively listening, looking for those pearls. Some people make those pearls a little more obvious on the floor than others. So
yes.
It takes some work sometimes to listen and understand what somebody's trying to tell you and what advice they have to offer you.
Yes.
I know for one that I am very excited about the conference. I'm very excited about hearing your keynote, but you have now made me doubly excited about stopping to listen to everybody else while I'm there. I was already excited about interacting, but you have reminded me how important it is really to talk to others, listen to their ideas, pick up those pearls of wisdom wherever you can.
Well, thank you. That's very kind of you to say. I've very much enjoyed meeting you.
Same here. I've really enjoyed our conversation, and I'm looking forward to seeing you live in person at the conference. It's going to be great. And I know we've had a wonderful opportunity to get to know you better. And I know everybody's going to be looking forward to meeting you in person and getting to know you even better at the conference.
Well, thank you. It's very kind. Appreciate it. I'm looking forward to it. It's not something I'm naturally inclined to want to do, but I'm looking forward to it. And I think the gift I will get back is if it does generate some conversations and it does change or allow someone to perform better, then it's time well spent. And we'll take a chance and try it.
Absolutely. Well, Stephen Jenkins, thank you for being on Problem Solved. We're looking forward to hearing more very, very soon.
Thank you, James. Appreciate your time.
You've been listening to Problem Solved, the IISE podcast, a production of the Institute of Industrial and Systems Engineers in Norcross, Georgia. We hope you'll share this and other Problem Solved episodes with your friends and colleagues. Learn more about sponsorship and advertising opportunities, as well as how you can become a member of IISE by visiting podcast.iise.org.